Welcome in to Mailbox Sports. Today we're going to get you sorted out with all of the new stories that I can think of in terms of things we haven't covered for the Bears. Stamp out those nice headlines for Chicago sports. And as always, we try to deliver the facts to you, the fan. I am your host and Joe Kim Noah's Cleveland tour guide, Postman 1914. Welcome in, everybody. As tonight, the episode is Bears Building a Foundation. The next steps for 2025 NFL contender. What that entails to me, the first wave of free agency is done. The ink is dried on certain contracts. Certain people have been given, extra money. And now we look towards the internal workings of the team in terms of what needs to happen next in order to ensure that the Bears become a playoff contender in 2025 and moving forward. For myself, I proclaim the Bears have, I think, awoken from a hibernation of sorts. Had a lot of activity going this offseason so far in terms of reinforcing both sides of the line. Any other moves that shall be made, I assume will be looked at as internal. We've sorted out, I think, a tertiary wide receiver in Alumide Zacchaeus. I hope I didn't pronounce that name wrong, but Alumide came over from Washington on a one-year deal. Terms have been discussed, but does give us the third receiver in the room, as usual. The pet that we all know and love likes to do things off the cuff and make noise when he needs not. I apologize, but hey, such is life. We'll learn how to get him either a chair on the panel or learn how to keep him quiet. Who knows? One day the neighbors won't bother him. I can say personally, to get back on track, that many fans have a lot of excitement, for lack of a better term. I won't say the level of which that excitement extends, but as it goes with those people that have excitement, we also have those naysayers that a bit more on the show me side. I obviously think that I fall more so on the excitement side because of the new coaching staff that we have that kind of coincides with the direction I think the team goes in. Ben Johnson and his staff will be anticipated to have a better offensive showing week in and week out. And I kind of think that those kind of moves would justify the buzz that goes on for the team. And pardon me, your boy does not feel 100%, but 100% we ready to talk sports. I think we still got moves to make, but I think the foundation has been laid in a pretty solid way that says that the coach will be able to have a hand in assembling talent and doing the things that need to be done to get us to contention week in, week out, and throughout the season and beyond. I don't want to be like a blip team where we get to the playoffs one year like we have, and other times we seem to kind of skip it by for another 2 or 3 years, and the inconsistency is maddening to say the least. So without further ado, we will talk about some things that will allow the Bears to do some cash on delivery. In the post office, sometimes you don't get your package until we get the rest of those funds. And so the Bears won't get the rest of the praise until we understand as fans what the next moves might be. I think that coaching continuity and development, the nurture talent for the players is, I think, the most important. I think last year we had talent that put us in line with being a team that should have competed at least to the end of the year for a playoff position. Nonetheless, the coaching staff did not do the things that they needed to do, i.e. developed the quarterback, i.e. maximize any potential holistically on the offense in general. And I think that those types of things in themselves kind of limit the full potential that the team can have on the field and off the field in terms of building a winning culture. And so I think that this coach and this staff has the opportunity to promote a bit more of a better, more conducive environment to winning. It can emphasize development because I do think that in Detroit, the offensive weapons were developed in such a way that says there's an understanding to player acquisition and talent development. And I think that that kind of accountability is strategic in the way in which it adapts itself to better the team on the whole, just to make a long story short. So I think that the coaching staff, in terms of the offense, being able to help Caleb learn how to read the entire field, learn how to check in and out of plays, along with the new players that they've gotten on the team in terms of a Joe Tooney or a Drew Dahlman to help him to be able to understand what's going on in front of him, help him see things a bit better, be an extra set of eyes for him as well as the ears to the play calls, so that when he does, get to the huddle, drop a call, those guys are able to give him somewhat of a mentorship that kind of helps him to unlock his full potential. And I think that in itself is something that we get a bump in tremendously from the coaching staff that Ben has assembled, not to mention him being spearheading and leading that particular charge. Also, we talked about maximizing free agent potential, or the potential of any addition to the team. We will have draft picks. We have players that are currently on the team. And so you look to see, can he maximize the potential of all of the people that we brought in? You have a Dayo Dangbo that certain people have trepidation about in terms of signings. And so you wonder, can a defensive coordinator like Dennis Johnson be able to unlock certain tendencies, skill sets, or things that overall lend themselves to having Dayo be the best player that he could be. And so maybe some of his potential wasn't developed or explored in Indianapolis. But moving forward, new coaching staff, new culture, new recognition gives him the opportunity to go ahead and see things from a different perspective. My apologies. Also, you do want to take like the veteran presence that they've taken, Joe Tooney or Grady Jarrett. I think those guys integrate themselves into the locker room in a way that kind of gives, like I said, mentorship and leadership. Yes, we want to have them be able to integrate themselves seamlessly into the team's, schematic endeavors or what have you. But you also want to see that they can assume the leadership positions that I think you went out and traded for 30-plus-year-old guys. I don't think it was just happenstance that they have skins on the wall, but they still have playing ability, and they still have the opportunity to go ahead and convey that message to their teammates to show that they've been in Super Bowls. Joe has won several, and he's won with the best quarterbacks in the game, and so he gives firsthand experience to give mentorship to maximize all potential on the offensive and defensive lines, I think, with those two acquisitions. And so it lends itself to have the question, can we cultivate the young talent that we have on the team? I.e., we talked about a Dangbo. Can Darnell Wright take the next step in terms of Dan Rauscher getting the best out of him on the offensive line? Can a Rome, without the hindrance of a Keenan Allen, be able to take the next step and be the 1A or 1B of the system? We will yet to see how Caleb interacts with both DJ and Rome as the 1 and 2 to truly define what their roles will be. But we know, at least in my anticipation, that they'll be heavily involved. And so in that way, we want to find out, can the new opportunities in front of them provide them the best results in terms of cultivating young talent. And so when we talk about young talent, we're going to go ahead and walk this route real slow. And we talk about capitalizing on the draft. We spoke last week heavily on the new acquisitions. And so personally, I believe that those particular acquisitions allowed the Bears to have the biggest yet best question mark hover over Hallis Hall, I should say. Let me go and take a little sip for y'all. So, obviously, protecting Caleb is first and foremost, alongside getting pressure on the other team's quarterback. And so, while I think the team has done a great service to themselves by acquiring talent right now, in the here and now, to be on the field, I do believe that the draft and the way in which we have acquired said talent gives us unlimited opportunity, as Ryan Poles has kind of stated this week in a press conference, to say that top 10 pick could be moved back. We could take what they classify as the best available player. Also, we could look at it the way I want to, and that we'll do that in a long fashion. But the more opportunities you take a stab at bolstering both sides of the line, you have the opportunity to not only cement your current, but the future will be laid out, i.e. Joe Tooney laying the foundation for Trey Smith, as I mentioned, for Kansas City. And so if you think about it that way, who are the new guys on the line on the inside, especially for a Tooney, who is 32. Jonah, I'm not necessarily certain of his age. I believe he's 28, but Jonah, maybe a Drew, they have a bit more of a shelf life. You also think to see, do the Bears have total confidence in Braxton Jones? Braxton is a fifth-round talent, and while I am currently satisfied with the job in which Braxton does, you have to understand that next year is the year in which they have to pay certain players. If you're not a first-rounder, you don't have a fifth-year option. And the question is, what kind of money does a left tackle command on the market? And can we really expect that any agent won't try to get their player top dollar? And what will Braxton command if, in fact, he does a bang job this year and deserves said pay raise? So be it. I'm not mad. I think you're an adequate guy. But could the team actually look into Braxton's replacement and look to move him into maybe a swing tackle position, or maybe even off the roster in a later move? I kind of look at the Bears holding that coveted 10th pick as a way to make them formidable in all of the pre-draft landscape. You know, several teams always like to move up into the top 10 for whatever reason, whether it's heavy on quarterback, whether it be a player that they covet. And so you hope that several players are coveted this year, as all year, so that the Bears themselves have somewhat of a wide open board that allows a total opportunity for them to make not only the best possible selection, but I want them to be able to make those selections a multitude, seeing as though I think we have 7 picks right now. I would hope to add to that. It could be 8, but I'm not certain if Ryan traded pick away recently. You know, Ryan does like to trade some picks away for NFL talent already. We'll look at it in that way. But if we talk about people in the trenches, anybody that you might have as a thought for whom they might draft or whom you might want to see them draft. Obviously, you got the big guns, the Will Campbells, the Armand Mimbles, who kind of shot up the draft board in the combine. So you kind of wonder about what guys actually have the tape to match holistically, 3 or 4 years to go along with the combine. Kelvin Banks, I think a guy like a Kelvin Banks or a Connerly Jr., I believe, is in Oregon, and we will break out the list in a moment. I think some of those guys kind of give you the opportunity to move back, as I stated, and while those guys, you won't get a top 10 player, I believe you can get a top 3 to 4 linemen by trading back, acquiring extra picks, especially seeing as though you might be able to get a second or a third round in that. I would love to see that happen for the Bears. But with that being said, let's go ahead and we're going to actually pull up some players, see on both sides of the ball what players specifically we think might have the opportunity, I should say, to end up in the Windy City. Let's go ahead and get ourselves over to the television. And right now we are on the defensive line rankings on NFLDraftBuzz.com. Anytime I use a site, a reference of conversation, anything like that, please try to hold me, especially if you are a fan that listens and frequents the sites and podcasts that I do. I want to give credit to the people who actually put this information forth so that we can go through it. And now, we kind of let's go ahead and see exactly who we have out here. We got a Michael Williams. That's a guy that's been kind of touted, 6'5", 260, a defensive edge, or defensive end and an edge. He went to Georgia. Columbus, Georgia is the hometown. So his position rank is 5 on the defensive line. Now, I think my button clicker just went to this guy right there because we weren't even looking at what we call defensive ends right now. We are going to pull ourselves over to the offensive line. My apologies. And now, so on this particular site, they give us a top 3 players and rankings. We will go past the top 3, but we will pay some reading to them. Now they say Kelvin Banks Jr. grades out as the number 1 offensive tackle on the board. This has not been the case all year until the draft. The combine came around, and all of a sudden they want to chastise this man's on his arm length. And so, while they could, but okay, let's talk about Austin Booker. Do I think Austin Booker has or will develop this year in a way that says Ryan knows what he's doing when he get a first? He gonna get a first to third round pick to get somebody on the edge. Are you gonna get it right when it's that in front of your face? What if they stay in the top 10? People talk about Shamar Stewart. I don't know that I know much about any of them, but kind of adventurous to let the underwear Olympics boost you up a little bit. Like Will Campbell been the number 1 offensive tackle all season to my knowledge, and now all of a sudden he number 2 because of his arm length. And Josh Simmons was higher ranked, but now injury, I believe, was what they had going on to kind of bump him down. But you see the 3rd rank. Now I'm not an Ohio State type of guy myself, but once you put on the orange and blue, I can't really bitch about it. So let's say we don't care about either of the top 4 linemen. So Kelvin Banks, Will Campbell, Josh Simmons, Armand Membu. Let's say don't care about them. They may go, mid, no later than 16. You come down to a guy like Gray Zabel. I do like Gray. I wonder if he's going to be the guy that is able to stay on the outside, or will he ever kick in to guard? Because he may be one of those guys that we talk about that could be had a bit later in terms of the first round. Also, we talked about Josh Connolly Jr., another guy I think they can get maybe late teens, early 20s if they really wanted to attack the offensive line first round. For me personally, if they want to be on some second round type of stuff, lately I've heard a lot about Ariante Ursery, the tackle from Minnesota. I'm gonna say Michigan. He ain't from damn Michigan. He's 6'6", 330, and then the monster that got a little bit of training out there with Olin Kreutz. Jonah Savianea. That's where I'm going to go with that. I like that. It sounds more Samoan. So Savianea is 6'5", 336. Ran under a sub 540 for a big man. Don't know about his cone times and everything, but that's where they'll get you. But got an 86, you got a high grade, still top 10. And I'm pretty sure that somebody like a Tyler Booker, Savianea, and Ursary, the guys that you can get second round. Donovan Jackson is still one of them guys. And so those are the top 12. I don't know much about Marcus Mbow, so I won't speak to whether or not they would have anything, nor have I heard of Wyatt Millum. But of the guys on this first page, I think you got several opportunities to trade back and give yourself the flexibility to pick up another pick and still get a quality lineman that, one, may have the opportunity to usurp Braxton if in fact that's what they want to do, or two, go ahead, get some grooming, take a little seasoning, and be ready with sparing playing time, in a year 2 and 3, and be ready to take over for Tooney. Just, my personal thoughts in that one is that since you do have the line somewhat solidified in this instance for the offense, you can afford to take either what I would classify as a lesser developed or take a lesser ranked player on the board and give him the opportunity to learn behind the All-Pro and the Pro Bowlers in front of him. And let's see if those things can help him to develop winning habits, and when it's his turn to take on the job, or if anything should happen injury-wise, because injuries, along with the opportunities to not truly get the best players for the line last year, cost us substantially in terms of development and wins. So, I won't speak to it being a tackle or a guard, because I believe sometimes you get tackles to kick them inside, and I do believe that our guard, while I think he's the most decorated, is the oldest on the line, so he does have one of the opportunities to be first replaced, along with the person that he stands next to in Braxton Jones. And so center would be the only position that I wouldn't know that they would address so heavily this year, if at all. I believe you can draft a center next year to go along with Drew, as they did re-sign Doug Kramer, so gives Doug the opportunity not to take fullback handoffs with tape on his hands, but go ahead and be a backup center if in fact he needs to be. Beyond the offensive line, the draft offers, as B. Walker said, defense can be had in their sleep. The Bears are known for running and linebackers. More notably, your defense. And so I think they able to get an array of guys on the defensive side of the ball. And I believe that it is most important that you get guys on the defensive side of the ball that are ready to play now. And I say that because I don't know that Zach Pickens is going to be on the team or along for playing time. Nor do I know how the rotation goes for a guy like Dennis Allen. So I want to see exactly how the rotation goes. I would like to know, did injury factor into Montez not being that guy? Or is Montez only that guy when the line is in peak position to assist him and when he's fully healthy? And if that's the case, when we talk about guys in the middle, Nick's not Mason Graham type of guy or something to that degree. We talk a lot about the edge. We did talk about a Shamar Stewart, Nick Scouten. Both of those guys I think went to Texas A&M. Yeah. Matter of fact, don't worry about it. Over here while we walking this route, we do a circular. We park and loop, so we're going to come back around. We're just going to do that right there instead of coughing in everybody's ears and being rude. Now we're going to move to the defensive line specifically. We won't move into any particular position, whether it be tackle or edge. So obviously the consensus is Abdul Carter I do not believe that the Bears will be in play for anything close to Abdul Carter, so we must well get that guy out of our mind. What does get me? So it says Abdul is 6'3", 259. Conversely, the third ranked guy on this board, James Pierce, if we can look at the pictures and look at their bills, one of them looked like a defensive end. One of them looked like a center. I mean, not a center, a safety. Mr. Pierce. Now, he's 6'5", so he's 2 inches taller, 243, 16 pounds less. And they both run 4.4s, so it's impressive as hell. But speed is what really has to be the delineation for James Pierce out here, the guy from Tennessee. And both of those are the edge speed rushers, I think, kind of help. Obviously, the names that you look at that are, top 10 types. I want to see Mason Graham being the man in the middle. Everybody vacillates on what their particular draft position will be. That's why I say, at 10, if somebody is there that you can't live without, you snag them. However, I hope that it's not a running back at that particular position. We can trade back for all of these things. And so as we get into it, we look at defensive ends. Or do y'all want to look at, we're going to look at all of them together. So obviously we're going to look past the top 3. And we'll get straight down to the 4 on beyond. So the consensus for everybody, I've seen a lot of mock drafts, goes to Shamar Stewart. Now, I don't know much about college football, obviously, but has Shamar at 6'6", 290, bulky frame, runs a 4.5. So I do believe that it was spoken that Nick Skelton is his collegiate teammate at Texas A&M, and he was the more productive player in college, not the higher ranked. So I don't know if they base it totally on upside, combine records, and so on and so forth, but we'll get to that. And next time, I need to start getting my Discord in here as far as the message goes, because anytime we got a day like today, I might be able to get some people into the Discord and allow them to, what is the word I'm looking for, join the discussion. So next week, I will absolutely make sure I do that, because I could have easily had that locked in. We'll move past my rambling and get into Michael Williams, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Mike Green, the aforementioned Nick Skelton, and the name I want to try to pronounce before I move on down the line, which is Princely Umanmielen. I believe that is how we're going to go with it. Prove me wrong. Princely is his name. The last question that I have before we get out here and wrap up today, because running back is a position that I know we will address, or I have strong conviction that we'll address. Where will it be addressed? Will they do the unthinkable in my mind and draft a running back in the top 10? Will they trade back and still draft one in the first round, which, as much as I'm not railing against whatever is being done, I'd be much happier if they were to do something like that in, let's say, the second round and later. Shout out to Cam Scatterbo, Caleb Johnsons, and all the guys that might not come out in the first round. Or do we kind of take the I got a good eye for talent approach and go ahead and know that they can get a solid running back in the later round, plug him in, and have Ben work his magic with something that we never seen before. I think that's how certain things can go, if you ask me. If you ask me. So, I just think that, we're gathering leads in the next segment. And gathering leads, to me, out in the streets, we try to acquire new customers so that we can build a brand, get, better talent acquisition per se, so that it leads to better potential performance, i.e. revenue, shipping things out, shipping things in. And I'm pretty sure that culture, as much as people talk about it, the lead in to building culture is solidifying wins. Wins are the things that fosters any of these particular cultures that we speak of. And so for me personally, I'm already knowing holistically that if you can do the things to develop the talent that we acquire and put on the roster late season, doing the draft, keeping guys afloat and keeping them involved in terms of understanding the scheme. Ian Wheeler is another guy to look at when we talk about running backs because he did not get an opportunity last year. Maybe he gets that opportunity. He's recovered from that torn ACL, and maybe they don't draft one. Who knows? You got many different ways to look at it. But I think all of those people that you bring in are ultimately going to be affected largely by the way in which you cultivate a strategy to win. It's not about rah-rah speeches. You got to establish a standard that kind of permeates every aspect of the organization. And for me, acquiring the talent now, you've acquired the coaching staff. Next step is the draft, training camp. All those types of things kind of go hand in hand in how we acquire the necessary ingredients to put together a winning culture, establish a winning team, and keep us in the loop for sustained success. And so I think that accountability, leadership, and consistency are the three major tenets that get them there. The players that they choose to get, I'm most curious to try to understand whom they want, why they want them, and how they plan to use them. And we get to, I guess, have a bit of a wish list moving forward. As we know, the weeks lined up until April the 24th, I believe, are all mock drafts, trade backs, scenarios that give everybody an opportunity to give away picks, acquire new picks, and acquire new talent. And so I believe that the next eventual step for us is to get into actual mock drafts. We got to have some mock draft selections. So with that being said, anybody who got any mock draft selections, potential picks, anything that goes on for your team, including my beloved Chicago Bears, you can go ahead and feel free to mailbox, or hit the mailbox, I should say, at Mailbox Sports at yahoo.com. So, you go ahead and hit the email. One day we're going to get a flasher for you at all times, but Mailbox Sports at yahoo.com is the email. Hit me with all the details. If you got a mock that you want to try it out, we'll go ahead and analyze it and see how much sense it makes to us. And maybe if it does, it stays in the patience batch and we talk about how we can expound upon it. Or if you come up with some of these things to have Ashton Genty being top 10 and on my Bears roster, we obviously know that a guy like me is all too ready to send yourself straight to the pit. I got no time for it. I got absolutely no patience. And as much as I want to be able to sit back and believe in Ben and Ryan, please don't draft me a running back. And so I want to know, patience or perspective. If the Bears draft a running back top 10, would they deserve the pit? I don't know. I couldn't tell you if they ever going to get it, but we will find out one day. They're going to actually tell us what's going on. Oh, look at that! I had to switch. So I told y'all I've been working on my screens. I'm sorry to get so scatterbrained. I've been working on my scenes and everything like that, and so certain buttons on my stream deck we're gonna keep working on. The Bears can't continue their upward trajectory. In short, position themselves royally to do what Chat GPT has said in the next 10 years, which is, I think, get 3 Super Bowls with Caleb. I'll take 3 of those being a Bears fan. But I do think that the moves that we look forward to making in the draft, along with the moves already made, give us a realistic basis to be considered for some sort of success this season and beyond. And while I think that the future is ultimately bright in Chicago, I'm really hopeful that your views of the stream, all of the content, your likes, if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and hit that like button for your boy. Share the content. Subscribe to the page if you haven't. Make sure anybody that likes Chicago sports and has an opinion of their own, go ahead, hit the subscribe button just the same. Your likes, your subscribes, and all other sharing of the content is appreciated, and I hope to gain more and more of your support. Today, we will wrap the stream up in that very way. Once again, email any questions you have to mailboxsports@yahoo.com. And as always, you tune in to Mailbox Sports every Wednesday evening. Till next time, thank you for bearing with me, coughing in the mic, giving you cold takes, and keeping you abreast of what's going on this side of the Chicago scene. Till next time, I will see you all. Have a nice one, and we are done.